The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
Everybody knows that the survivors of the Holocaust, they didn't talk a lot. They were quiet, very quiet. Many didn't talk. And when they went to interview them, I spoke with one of the people, and he told me that he came to interview Asher Sapleta Yid, a survivor. He didn't want to say anything. And he begged him, please, they will have to know in the future generations. Tell us what happened. Tell us what went on. We should know. It should be recorded in history. It is so important for the future. Then, maybe a little bit, but many were not interested. However, as the years went on, there was one time that all across the board, universally, anyone who was a Asher Sapleta Yid began to talk. When? At the Pesach Seder. And, of course, there was one Yid in Eretz Yisrael. He didn't say much, but he just said over one little story. And this Yid, he was a person very humble. He remarried and was zocheh to bring up a son in Eretz Yisrael, a ben zekunim, a son in his elderly age. From time to time, they would be sitting in the living room or just in a discussion, and all of a sudden, he would get that distant look. And the father would begin just to stare. They knew during that time, don't disturb him. He's thinking about those days, those dark days. He's having a flashback. Just leave him at that moment. There was only one story that he did say, usually at the Pesach Seder. He would say it was towards the end of the war, and the Allied forces were advancing, and the Germans wanted to march them deeper and deeper. And it was a blizzard. It was such a freezing cold night, and the snow was already knee deep, and it was difficult for every step. And we were starving and emaciated, but we were walking. And I was there together with my brother. My brother was a little bit weaker than me. All of a sudden, in the middle of the night, when we were being marched by the Nazis, my brother whispered to me. He said to me, Yaakov, I can't go on anymore. I'm just going to fall down in the snow. I can't do it. Everybody knows. As soon as someone would fall in the snow, he would be killed. They would shoot him. The brother said, I'm not letting you. He immediately put his arm around the arm of his brother. And this man, the one who was saying the story over at the Pesach Seder, began to carry him. Mind you, he had no strength even for himself. But you know, it's difficult to carry only one. All of a sudden, there was another man, a fellow prisoner. I don't know where he came from, but he took the other arm of my brother, and we both began to carry him and walk so that nobody would discover it. Unfortunately, I know what happened, the man said to his brother. He did not survive the war. He didn't make it to the liberation. But I always wondered, what happened to that other Yid? What happened to that Yid that helped me to carry him that night? That was the end of the story. There was a chasna in Yerushalayim HaKodesh. The father, now elderly, is invited to the chasana together with his son, with his ben zekunim. The chuppah was on the top floor. No elevator or escalator. And it was difficult for the father to walk. The father was having a hard time making it up the steps. And his son saw it. So he said, Abba, I will help you. He took his arm in one arm and began to carry him up. All of a sudden, there was an older Yid came out of nowhere and took the other arm of my father and began to take him up the steps. All of a sudden, my father had that distant look in his eyes and began to stare. And I got so impatient. I said, Abba, why now? It's a chasana. There's simcha and music and dancing. Why? And all of a sudden, my father turned to the man who was holding him on the right side. And he said to him, Shloime, die kennst me. Shloime, die kennst me. Do you remember me? There, standing on the right side, was the same man who helped to carry in the gate Salmovis in the valley of the shadow of death so many decades before, helped to carry his brother through that dark night. The son told me over the Maisa, and when I heard it, I put a small Devar Torah with it. We say, Ach toiv v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai. Toiv and chesed, good acts, benevolence, should pursue me all the days of my life. What does that mean, to pursue me? I want to say the following pshat. Sometimes a person is zoiche to do a chesed, to do a mitzvah, to do tzedakah, to teach a vort, to reach out. They should be zoiche to do the same mitzvah 40 years from now, 50 years from now. Kol yemei chayai, all the days of my life. Afreilich Chanukah.
Enjoyed this story? Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org